Hello! I've forgotten to do my book reviews for the past couple of months, so I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do a bumper one to tell you all the books I've been reading since, I don't know when the last video I did, was it August or September? I say bumper one as if I've read like a million books in the past couple of months. I haven't. I haven't read that many books, so much so I had to change my goal on Goodreads. But anyway, I'll get to that in a moment. Hello, if you're new around here, my name is Caroline. I had a goal at the beginning of 2023 to read 50 books. That ain't going to happen now because we are at the 6th of December and I'm nowhere near, well, I say nowhere near 50, I'm not going to meet my 50 goal unless I put myself in a room and ignore everyone, kids, husband, family, friends, everyone, for the next few weeks. That's the only way I'll be able to read those many books, which obviously isn't going to happen. If you are new here, my name is Caroline. I post all types of content on my channel, ranging from vlogs, hauls, book reviews, food stuff, Christmas stuff, Elf on the Shelf, anything and everything, I post it here. I'm currently doing Vlogmas at the minute, and this will be my Vlogmas day 6, I think. I believe the last time I posted a video about my book reviews was August, I think. I think that's it. So I've got to talk about my September, October and November books, 3 months worth of books. I'm looking at my Goodreads app as we talk. So I have read 8 books since the beginning of September till the end of November. 8 books in 3 months, which isn't too bad, I suppose, but I should have done better. But anyway, I was on holiday for 2 weeks. That's my excuse. I was on holiday for 2 weeks in October and I couldn't read any books on holiday because I was too busy being on holiday. So let me get into the books I have read. So I'm going to just read you through the titles of the books and then we'll delve into it as best as I can. So the books I have read are How to Treat People, A Nurse's Notes by Molly Case, Dreams from My Father, A Story of Race and Inheritance by Barack Obama, I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy, Never Never by Colleen Hoover, Spare by Prince Harry, A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck, All Because of You by Teresa Paulo, and 7 Days to Die by Michelle Kidd. Whew! It does seem like quite a lot, but then I have to remember it's been over 3 months, so it's not that much. So let's start at the beginning. A good place to start. How to Treat People, A Nurse's Notes. I think I listened to this as an audiobook on the app BorrowBox. So I thought that this book would be similar to the books by Adam Kay. He's the author who wrote This Is Going to Hurt, which is a really, really, really great book. It's also a BBC TV series as well, which I highly recommend as well. I love the Adam Kay book. It was really insightful, had like in-depth bits about how it is to be a doctor, especially is he a midwife? No, he's not a midwife. He is a doctor in the labour ward. And his story book is really, really good. Because I enjoyed the book by Adam Kay, I thought it would be quite nice to see a book from a different perspective of a different doctor or nurse. And so I saw this book and I have had to write notes. Thankfully I wrote these notes, otherwise I would not remember. But this book here, I think I gave it 3 stars out of 5, mainly because it wasn't as good as the Adam Kay one. Maybe if I hadn't read Adam Kay's book, I would have rated this one higher. But I was hoping for some more humorous, realistic, like heartwarming, stories from patients. I don't need names or anything like that, but I was hoping for more of like proper experiences from patients. And unfortunately this book didn't deliver. What do my notes say? There was quite a lot of information about her own father who had a heart attack, I think, if I remember correctly. And so that was interesting, but it was very much heavily based on her dad, which again is great, but I would have just liked a bit more, not just about her family, just to see what other people were doing. And like, she did talk about a couple of other patients as well, but it wasn't as in detail as the Adam Kay version. So maybe because of my comparison of the two, I'm not giving it a fair review, but that is sort of how I saw the book. I wanted more. It wasn't gritty enough. It was very emotional though, obviously when she speaks about her dad and the stuff that he went through not being very well. That was obviously very touching, and that bit was sort of more interesting to read, again, because it's like the gritty part of the patient. But I just felt in general it was just lacking that bit more that you want when you're reading this type of book. The next book I listened to this one as well from BorrowBox, and because I listened to Becoming by Michelle Obama a few months ago, and I really, really, really loved that book. I thought it was really insightful. Michelle Obama is really interesting how she describes her life. And she mentioned in her book that when she met Barack Obama, he was writing a book, and they met obviously before he became the president of the United States. And so the book he was writing is pre-presidency. And so she was saying like how he struggled with that book. It didn't do very well. And then as soon as he became a president or became more like a Senate in the American government, the book started to take off, and then he started to like generate interest and whatnot. He has written a book since being a president as well, but this book is obviously prior to that. So I thought, let me read both these books. I'll read this one first, obviously chronologically. We're going to read that one first and we'll read the president one later. I haven't read the president one yet, just a disclaimer. This book here, oh my God, I struggled with this book. He did not have, when he wrote this book, he did not have the same storytelling, charismatic skills he has now as being, or I say now, like when he was president. I found this a tough book to get through. I nearly didn't finish it. It's the only book this year that I nearly packed in. I genuinely, at one point was like, I don't think I can listen to this book anymore because it just went nowhere. And the book is called Dreams from My Father. And if you don't know much about Barack Obama, his history is that his dad is from Kenya, and his dad was married, I believe she had children, and then he came over to America. He met Barack's mum, got married, had baby Barack, and then went back to Kenya. And his mum, Barack's mum, had no idea that Barack's dad was already married. So it's all a bit of a hoopla there. But he doesn't talk about his life like you would expect someone to talk about his life. He was sort of doing a very factual, you know, this is the date, this is what happened. Whereas say, for example, with Michelle Obama's book, she would sort of explain her experiences in certain times and how her family reacted to certain instances, where I felt like Barack's was sort of like matter of fact. I also didn't understand the point of the book, considering he wrote this book before he even had any dream of becoming a president. What was the point of the book? I keep on coming back to that question in my head where I was thinking, why did he choose to write this book? He wasn't at a level that anyone would want to read it. Because it's like, you know, if you're not any member, if you're not in the public eye whatsoever, and you're writing a biography about yourself, why do you think people would care? That really confused me, because I was just like, you wrote this book as a nobody, expecting people to want to read about your life. Hey? I couldn't figure that out. Towards the end of the book, he visits Kenya, and learning about how Kenyan people live. Again, as someone who's never been to Kenya, haven't done much research on Kenya, it was very interesting. I did really enjoy this part of the book. Unfortunately, this part of the book is the end of the book, so I would have missed this bit out had I not finished it, because, like I said, the first big chunk of this book is dull. But the third final part of it is actually quite interesting when he visits Kenya, learning about how the Maasai men, how the Maasai men live their life as soldiers, and they have like a whole like ritual. I don't know if they do it anymore, but they used to do a ritual where you have to kill a lion, and explaining how that worked and how it was dangerous and why they did it, and really interesting learning about that aspect of life. So I gave Barack's Dreams from My Father, A Story of Race and Inheritance, 3 out of 5, because like I said, I would have given it 2 had I not had the last bit about Kenya. I would have given it 2 because it was just a tough listen. The next book I listened, again another listen to, you can tell I was definitely in a reading slump at the minute, I just wanted to listen to it. The next book I listened to is called I'm Glad My Mum Died, but by Jeanette McCurdy. I had seen this book bouncing around everywhere, and I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This book, I'd seen it bouncing around online, and it always had like a really long waiting list on the BorrowBox app, and I was just wondering, why? What is this book? It's such a strange concept as well. I'm Glad My Mum Died. And I thought, what on earth? And I didn't actually know who Jeanette McCurdy was, to be honest. I had to Google her, and she's from the Disney Channel. She's in iCarly, and she's been in other stuff as well. I had no idea really who she was, because I never watched iCarly. I'd seen her face, but I couldn't place her. This book was so well written. It's so interesting, it's horrible, it breaks your heart so many times. You want to scream listening to her tell her story about how her mum was so fixated on making her a child star that nothing else mattered. And you think like, this is a child star, now she's an adult obviously, but it's just like her explaining how horrible it was for her being a child star, and how she always wanted to impress her mum no matter what she did. Even if it meant she didn't eat, she was starving herself, she was unwell. It was just all about how her mum felt, making her mum feel better, and her mum being a narcissist. And you feel bad because obviously you can see how much she loves her mum in the book, and you can really get that vibe that she wants to do anything and everything for her mum. But at the same time, you want to scream to say your mum, she is literally obsessed with making you famous and no matter what cost. But you can see how the mum is being really narcissistic and you want her to stop, but you understand the mum, I believe, thinks she's doing everything she's doing out of love. It's a really strange, mind confusing like story, but it's not story. Yeah, it's a good book. I would definitely, I mean, I'm not someone who tends to listen to or read stories more than once, but I would like to maybe read this book again, I think, just to really, I don't know, it's such a powerful book, and I highly recommend it. It also explains, so again, I haven't watched iCarly, so I wouldn't know much about that, but it's really interesting as well to hear her talk on like how her relationship with her mum has impacted her relationship with boys, with boyfriends. It's also, if you do watch iCarly, to see why Jeanette is not in the iCarly remake or reunion, you understand why quite a lot. So she does explain that. She explained her relationship with some of the cast members, and yeah, it's a great book. As opposed to the next book I read, Never Never, What a Load of Tosh. Oh my goodness, this book by Colleen Hoover. So I found this book on a little library. You know, there's libraries around the UK. There is a free book library. People put their books in there and you can either take a book or you can swap a book. It's all free. So I saw this book and I don't mind Colleen Hoover too much. I think she's okay. She's written some good books. So I saw this one and I thought, let me give it a go. Why not? And I want to read a hard book. I don't want to read a Kindle. I don't want to listen to a book. I want to read a proper book. This book had so much potential, but was a load of, I had to Google the end of the book to understand what on earth was going on, because the ending of it was hopeless. Such potential, and it was just pathetic. I gave it 2 out of 5 because the storyline itself, the beginning, the crux of it, the roller coaster you go on, I was like, how are they going to figure this out? What is going on? What on earth is going to happen? And then the end, I was like, The book is about 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl, called Cyrus and Charlie. And you start off in the perspective of Cyrus, but you flip between Charlie and Cyrus. And the book is about basically every 48 hours, they lose their memory completely. They have no idea who they are. They don't know who their family are. They don't know anything about anything. And every 48 hours, this keeps on happening. So within those 48 hours, they've got to figure out what is going on, why they've lost their memory, how they can get their memory back. At one point, one of them goes missing, and they know, so you have experience of them being missing for a while, and you have them, the perspective of them in the place where they are missing and how they're treated whilst they're there, again, not knowing who they are. So I did really enjoy that, like how are they going to figure this out? Because every 48 hours their mind would refresh, and so you're thinking they have done to write letters to themselves, photos of their family members, like names of people, what they figured out so far, where they've been, what they know, and things like that. And so it was really interesting. Like I say, it kept me on my toes, wondering what on earth was going to happen. But the ending of it, I had to Google what the ending meant, because they figured out what happened with their minds and they fixed that part. But then the ending of it was like it was starting again. But I don't want to spoil it in case you wanted to read it. It was like it was starting again, and so then they're trying to resolve it for someone else to happen, for someone else it's happening to. And I was just like, what? It could have been really like clever, but instead it just fell a bit flat. And that's why I could only give it 2 stars, because I was hoping for some amazing finish line, amazing twist, and didn't have that. The next book, Spare by Prince Harry. I am pretty much a pro Meghan Markle person. I don't see anything wrong with her. I think she's fine. I just think people should leave her alone. That's my opinion. So that's kind of why I wanted to listen, again, not really listen to this book, because I wanted just to be like, you know what, I want to hear Harry's side of the story, because he has a life that no one will ever have unless you're a member of the royal family. And so I wanted to see what he had to say for himself. I wanted to know what it was like being a member of the royal family. Obviously as well, the gossip in there. Obviously it'd be fun to know, you hear all the horrible things that happened to Harry and Meghan and how they were treated by their own family. And so I was just like, you know what, I want to see what this is all about. I have to say, again, the first part of this book was naff. He barely talks about what it's like to be a member of the royal family that is of interest. There is a whole chunk of him being in the army, which I could have done without. I don't care that much about the army. I get that's his life, but it was too long. He was talking about it too much, and I prefer to learn about him and not what happened in the army, because he was just pretty much just talking about what it's like in the army, and I probably could find that out from any person who'd been in the army if I wanted to. It didn't, obviously learning about how he had to be kept, his placement had to be kept secret, I get that, I thought that was interesting. It was interesting to know that, but I don't know, the rest of it, I was just like, how many people he killed, I'm like, oh, that's not very nice, I don't, you know, that's not particularly something that, it's nothing to write about, I don't think that's something to be proud of, I don't think, it just, yeah, I just felt like his personality seems to be, I was in the army in this book. Yeah, I felt like the beginning bit was lacking a little bit as well. You kind of want, like, you could tell us so much stuff about what it's like to be a member of the royal family, and you just haven't. You've held back quite a bit, in my opinion. He does go into detail about, like, when he was dressed up for Halloween and how silly he was. And he does talk about how awful those decisions were that he made. He does talk about how, like, it's, you know, he gets called the stupid one all the time, and all those type of things. I do think it was good that he highlighted those things, because I can only imagine to be your whole life be called the spare must be absolutely crap, to be like, can I just be my own person and not be this, like, add-on member to the family, and then to be the add-on, to be the rebel, to be the outcast, to be your genetics questioned all the time, you know, to be called stupid. It must be pretty crap. And so it was good to learn about that sort of thing, and you do really feel bad for him. The final parts of the book, like the last chunk of it when he's talking about him and Meghan, are horrible, because how he describes what happened with him and Meghan, and like how everyone reacted to it, it's just horrible. The racism that Meghan experienced. If you want to listen to it, read it, then do. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. One thing I could do without, though, considering that he is a fully grown man, I could do without him saying papa and daddy and mummy and all that sort of stuff, because it doesn't sit right with me. I don't get how posh you are. Just say mum and dad, you know? Anyway, the next book I listened to is a short story, and it's called A Short Stay in Hell. This book, I found this book really unsettling. It's a short story, and it is a good story, but it's really, it makes you feel uneasy. It's about someone who dies, and he's religious, and basically it's pretty much, he goes to the pearly gates, and there's a demon there who goes, all the religion that you've been thinking of for your entire life is all null and void, so you're going to hell. And hell is basically a huge library. You have any food you want, you're kept comfortable, the temperature is nice, there's no like burning flames or anything like that. And the only way you can get out of this hell is if you find a book in this library which is the story of your life. But the catch is that the books in this library are every single type of book that could ever exist. That could be, as example, a book of just, I think every book is like a certain amount of pages as well, so every book is like the same. And so for example, the book could be, one book is full of commas, the next book could be full of commas and an exclamation point, the next book could be completely commas and a letter A, the next, you know what I mean, like every single book, it could be the story of your life, but then the last letter is spelled incorrectly, so it's not right. So it's just like every single book, it just goes on for light years, this library, and it's this man has to try and find his book to get out of this place. But obviously that's going to be nigh on impossible, because the library goes on for what feels like an eternity. And how many books can you look through? Everyone is sort of very similar, everyone is like the same sort of race, everyone is the same similar age, around the same part, they all come from like the same part of the world, everyone talks the same languages, and it just becomes very boring for him. And so it's like he's desperately trying to find his book to get out, but then it's like, how much more can I look, because every day is just spent looking for books. How far can you go left, and then you've got to go. It's just such an unsettling book. Short stories, if you're in a reading slump, it's a good book to get you out of that. I could talk about this book forever. I could really talk about this book for a long time. The next book I read is called All Because of You by Teresa Paulo. There's a thing on Kindle called Stuff Your Book Day or something like that, where I think it's 3 times a year or 4 times a year, loads of books are free for Kindles. So you can just download as many books as you like and they're on your Kindle. You stuff your Kindle. And this was one of them that came up, and this is a spicy book, which I knew it was spicy. I don't think it's that spicy in the grand scheme of spice. So the book starts off with the main character who's called Olivia, and she finds out basically that her boyfriend has been cheating on her, and her boyfriend is like this high, well-paid CEO type man, and she's just like, screw you, you've been cheating on me, I'm out of here. So she goes back home to her little small town village, and on the way there she gets on a train with a young man and they get talking, and they end up actually getting off at the same stop, and he is also there in the same village town to meet some family who he hasn't ever met before. And it's just basically a love story between the two of them, and as I said, it's a bit spicy. There's not much of a storyline to it really, because it's a spicy type of book. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars, I believe. I didn't think it was that enthralling, but I did get through it quite quickly because it's one of those books where you're like, where's this going to? What's going on here? It's a good book. I can't say much more about it because it is, like I mentioned, just a spicy book. If that's your type of vibe, give it a go, especially if it's like cheap. I wouldn't spend lots of money on this type of book. And then the final book I have just finished reading is 7 Days to Die by Michelle Kidd. I think this is again another book I got on the Stuff Your Kindle Day. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So this book is about a serial killer who is taking women and killing them, but the big chunk of the book is actually from the perspective of his victims where he's keeping them in a basement, and it's not very nice because a couple of the victims who you're in their perspective of, you're there as their perspective, and then their perspective ends because obviously their life ends. And so that's an interesting side of a book that you don't generally get to see, which I did quite like that part of it because it just felt a bit more raw, more real. Also, there's a few twists in it because I feel like I knew who the killer was quite early on. There are a few twists in there, people who you didn't think. They try and lead you down certain paths which are interesting, and it's a good book. If you do like a thriller, I do recommend it. I'm not always too keen on thriller books which focus solely on the police side of it, because I find sometimes I'm like, I don't care about the police characters, I just want to know about the crime and that be it. I don't want to make a relationship up with the police person, and this book does do that, unfortunately. After they'd solved the crime, they were then the last couple of chapters were about the police force and the main characters there, and I was like, shh, I don't want to know about this. I want you to finish the book, solve the crime, and be on my merry way. I don't want to hear about what you have for dinner the next day. But the crime aspect of this book I did really like. It kept me on my toes. I did want to keep on reading. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know who the hell the person was who was doing it. The killer in this book is targeting victims who are similar to people from his past, and he leaves a shoe at every crime scene of his next victim. And so that was quite cool. I say cool, sounds a bit mean to say that, but quite a different way of focusing on a killer. It's like a cat and mouse type thing where the killer was like teasing the police, being like, this is the next person, can you figure out who it is going to be next? And there were quite a few people in the book who you thought could be the killer, so they had to weed out everyone who you thought maybe it could be and just figure out who it was and who it wasn't. So it is a very good book. It's an easy book to read. Like I mentioned earlier, my only issue with it is the fact that it just focused too much on the policeman himself, because I don't want to hear about him and his life. I'm all about just the crime. But yeah, that's my preference. I know some people really enjoy the crime and investigation part of it, but for me, I'm just about the crime. So anyway, those are the 8 books I've read since the beginning of September. I have now changed my reading goal to be 40 books. Can you show me now? My goal is now to read 40 books, not 50, because as I mentioned, I'm never going to get to 50. I have read 34 books this year, so I need to read 1.5 books per week for the rest of this year to meet my 40 book goal. I'm hoping I can do it because I haven't met my 50 goals. I'm hoping I can meet 40. Just got 6 books to go. I'm sure it's doable. I just have to focus and not doom scroll as I like to do. But anyway, those are the books. Let me know what books you have read over the past couple of weeks. Any recommendations, please let me know. And I will see you in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.